Hi, this is Mark Sehl of the YouTube channel Therapy for the Heart. And with great sadness, I've been putting off making this video for some time. I just didn't want to admit that Dr. Lucas is dead. And I mean, I've known it since May 8th is when he died, and my last day to see him was May 7th. Somebody at the office called me to tell me that he was failing fairly rapidly, so I went up that evening and saw him for a while, and he was gasping for bad lying down breath, gasping for breath to breathe. It was hard for him to breathe. He couldn't talk at all. So I laid down with him, and at one moment he put his arm around me. I didn't know if he recognized me or not, but I think he did. By some sense, he put his arm around my shoulder, and I held him for a while. And then I left, and the next day they called and told me that he died. I've known Gerry since 1994. He was my teacher, supervisor, friend, analyst for many years. He helped me a great deal, and he taught me a lot about what it was to be a human being, and to accept myself, and not to be critical, and to accept all the genuine aspects of myself that were difficult for me to integrate into my whole psyche. So he was very good at that. He had a transference resistance group that he encouraged people to free speak, and which I run right now. I have a group that I run every other Tuesday, modeling it after him. And he empowered people to speak up. And in many psychoanalytic institutes are often politically, I wouldn't say corrupted, but they do have a lot of conflicts within them. Somebody wrote a book, Free Association, Unfree Association, about how it's not so free for people to differ from the establishment and what happens to them. So, and I think Gerry very much identified with that. He was very much identified with De Leon and that movement. I'm going to read you a little bit about it because it really does tell me something about why Gerry liked it. The goal of the working class party is direct democratic control of all industries and services by the workers united in an industrial union. Rather than governing in the name of the working class as in the Leninist countries, De Leon asserted that a socialist political party has but one thing to do upon winning control of the political offices, and that is to transfer all management authority to the workers' councils, and in so doing abolish all political forms of power, including abolition of the socialist political party itself without delay. So that does tell me something about who I knew Gerry to be. He was very much in favor and encouraging people to be themselves. He did not like organizations, or he was an atheist. He didn't like the aspects of the control that the church exerted over its members because the detrimental effects it had on them in terms of self-judgment and a lot of different other reasons. So, but he really did practice what he preached, and you could say anything to him in that class, including, and particularly most importantly, feelings about him, and he wouldn't hurt anybody, reprimand them, throw them out of class because of what they felt or what they said in the Free Speak group, which is what wasn't called the Free Speak group now. That's what I call my group, the Free Speak for Therapists group. So I'm very sad about Dr. Lucas, and there not being any more Mark and Gerry's Day. Every Friday I visited him I quit analysis. I had to. I stayed in there too long because I was feeling guilty. But I knew he wasn't able to help me anymore. He was suffering from dementia, and I saw it worsening. So eventually I talked with him about not being able to see him anymore, and went very fine. He knew, I think, that that was not going to work. So I became his friend and saw him Fridays. And I wanted to make him to know that he wasn't alone. Some people visited him over the course of time, but not many. There were a few that were very, very long-term patients and friends of his. And David Miller came across from India, and Mary Lou, and several people in his class visited him also from time to time. But gradually, as time wore on and as dementia increased, and it was obvious like he was not able to function much at all, it was reasonable that people would not be visiting him. And many people also were from not from the area of New York City. He knew a lot of people down in the Philadelphia area, and so relationships would drift away, and that made sense. But I was up here, local with him, and wanted to see him, so I did. We went to lunch, and I took him to Barney Greengrass, and I had the staff sing "Happy Birthday" to him when it wasn't his birthday, and I wanted to make a connection with him and to know that, and he really took a lot in, even though his eyes would be closed. One time I proposed to him, and I said, "Will you marry me?" And subsequent to that, the same day, he had his eyes closed for a long time, and all of a sudden he said we were trying to work out our feelings for each other, and so he was taking in a lot, and so one teacher one time saw me down at the Tisch Center and said, "I saw your videos." I didn't even know him, but he said, "On the YouTube." And he said that one was, Dr. Lucas was very sad. And I said, "What part of it?" And he said, "Well, when he has his eyes closed." And I said, "Well, do you remember the end of it where he said that we were trying to establish a connection and work out our feelings for each other?" That was not sad. It was his synthetic function of the ego pulled things together, and he said that right up front. So he wanted to make a connection. He said one time, I said, "Let's call some people that you know and see if we can get them to come and visit you." So he said, collecting evidence. And that's what it was to him, collecting evidence of his existence, of his making an impact on other people, and which could be could make him very happy and very sad, because he really lost his ability to remember who he was. One time I showed the videos that I made since 2012 of his life, and how he met his Marie, and how he grew up, and how he fought kids in his neighborhood. And one time he really was very happy looking at these videos, and then another time he sobbed because he didn't know who he was. He didn't know who that person was. One time I said, "Gerry, if you didn't know who you were and I didn't know who I was, do you think we could have a good time?" And he says, "I think we could manage." So we did, but he really lost his functioning, his the basic abilities. During his last days, he didn't want to eat, he didn't want to drink. He was very depressed, and I said to him once, I said, "Gerry, it must be very hard to live the way you're living, because you don't have any control over the things, of your movement, of being able to do things in your life, to walk around as you would like, to go outside. It's a very tough life to have." And he said, "Yes, it is." And I think you really appreciate that recognition of, not trying to paint any rose glasses over the way his life was. So I had very good memories of him. I'm glad that he died, because he wasn't living anymore, even though he could connect in some ways with people and with me, but not very much. And nothing was happening with him, too much at all. So and he didn't die. He didn't die a painful death, as far as I can see. It wasn't painful. He didn't have to be in a hospice. He died in his home. He is survived by his 3 children, 2 daughters and a son, and some grandchildren. His wife died some time ago, also of Alzheimer's. So that's it. I wanted to show you some pictures. I don't know. This is one of my favorites of when we went to the ice cream store around the corner. He used to like to get eat some ice cream, vanilla ice cream with chocolate on it. And this is a picture of him when I took him to the Jewish Museum to see Sehl. He got very interested in Sehl, and he was very emotionally moved because Sehl did many of his drawings at during the war, and they were very graphically depicting the destruction of some of the cities. And this is a very happy face of Gerry. This was at the corner delicatessen, where we used to go and have coffee. This is a picture of him just a couple of weeks before he died, and we were holding hands. And one thing was very important to Gerry, and touch was very important, as it is to most people, but he really liked being touched. And when we were holding his hands, he could connect emotionally, even though he might not be able to talk. He was connecting in another way, which was as equally, if not more important, that he felt me through touching and holding his hand. And this one is a beautiful picture of both of us, again, holding his hand. And that day he was kind of playfully, I was going to say like a child, but not only children are playful, and not only children do this, but he was picking my finger up one by one like that over his hand and playing with it, and it was a very happy moment for us. So, with great regret, I am not going to be, that really is hard to admit to, but I'm not going to be seeing Gerry anymore. And I miss him on Fridays, I always do. And as I said again, it was hard for me to make this video because it's an acceptance of the finality of the fact that Gerry is dead. And I didn't want to deal with it, but if I don't deal with it in some way, I can't also move on. Not away from him and never forget him, I never will do that, but just move on in a sense. And that's what grieving is all about, being able to accept someone's death, and with all the feelings of guilt and anger, felt he deserted me. It's silly, but he left. It's not his fault, but I'll miss him. So in some way, he did desert me. And loving him, loved him very much. He was like a father to me, and but much more than a father. He was a good father that I never had, but he was. My father was pretty good in some ways he wasn't, as you observed in the videos. But anyway, Gerry was. And I think I wanted to put Gerry, I know I wanted to put him on the map and to make him in modern psychoanalysis and myself recognized, because Gerry didn't really write any papers. He did write some papers, but he didn't really get himself out there much. And there was a lot for him that he had to say about life, and he knew so much about so many things. He was a very well-rounded man. So here's to Gerry, and if anyone wants any more information or anything to know about his biography or his life, you can make a comment on or write to me at marksehl@gmail.com, and I'll be glad to answer. So I'm going to sign off for now for the last reference of Mark and Gerry's day. Not the last reference, but that there will be no more Mark and Gerry's days, I'm sad to say. So thank you for tuning in to the YouTube channel Therapy for the Heart and watching the videos of Dr. Lucas and myself. Thank you.